Today on the Relationship Renovation podcast, we just have a bunch of questions we answer. We reached out through social media channels and asked you, what are some things that you want to know about relationship?
If that becomes the normal, that's where the relationship starts to feel disconnected.
What are the questions you'd like a marriage therapist to answer?
You should just be like, hey, honey, I need you to notice me. Like, that would feel really good.
And what are a few questions about the two of us you'd like to know as well? So please stay tuned. It's a lot of fun.
Hello, all, and welcome to the Relationship Renovation podcast. I'm Tarah Kerwin.
And my name is EJ Kerwin. And we're bringing back something we did a number of episodes ago, and it was super fun.
Yeah.
We put out a post to all of our social media channels, and we asked for, hey, what are the questions that you would most like us to answer? And we're going to
if you could ask a marriage counselor anything, what would you ask them?
Yes. And we're going to sort of rapid fire answer those questions. So,
rapid fire answer those questions.
Tarah has a bunch of questions.
Let me pull them up.
I have some questions that I printed out as well, and we can do it. And it's just kind of, we're not going to go super in depth on these questions, but we're going to kind of dip our toes into each of them.
Yes. And thank you for your responses and for engaging, because there's some really great questions, and we're going to give it our best effort.
Yeah. And I'd actually also like to put out sort of a plea to people out there is we are starting to do a lot more just interviewing couples and sitting them down, whether they live here locally and we can have them in studio, or we can do this remotely. But we want to interview you, and we want to hear your stories. We want to hear the things that you've gone through together, maybe some of the things you've got through together, and also maybe some of the things that you're still struggling with. And we want to just bring more and more just couples on and just talk to you guys about what it's like to make a relationship work.
Absolutely. It's a community we are building, and we love it. Okay, so first question, other than daily check-in, what has been the most helpful habit to demonstrate love and affection to each other?
Actually, I think it's a new habit that we picked up, and it was from an episode about a month or two ago with Abby Metcalf. And it was making the effort that anytime you and your partner come back together, whether I enter the house or we haven't seen each other, or we show up at one of us shows up later to a dinner party, and that we always walk up to each other and recognize. And it's been hard, but we've been getting better at it.
We're getting better.
But I love it because what it does is if Tarah does that, it makes me feel really like special, like, oh, I matter like more than everything else. And when I do it to her, it's a reminder to me that she is the person who matters the most, and I need to find ways to let her know.
Well, and it's interesting because like we do it when our kids come home, or we do it with our animals.
Yeah. Oh, Benny, how you doing, big dog?
We just forget to do it with our partner. And so, yes, I would say other than the check-ins, which are always very helpful, to have that when you're leaving and when you're coming back, some kind of interaction saying, I'm so glad you're here and I will miss you when you leave.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay. Second one. Is it ever better to just end a marriage, or do you find that all marriages can be saved?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I mean, I'll kind of go first.
You want to jump? You go for it.
Because I don't think all marriages can be saved. I think that if boundaries keep being violated, or agreements between the two partners keep, showing up as not being agreed upon, then it's kind of impossible for a relationship to work. What I notice is that when couples come into couples counseling, usually the other person wants to change, or usually one partner just wants the other partner to change, and they quickly realize the process is like individual counseling for the sake of the coupleship. And so usually both partners do their own work, so they can feel connected, so they can prioritize their relationship. However, right, I can't say like, oh, all of our couples that come in don't or stay together, I can say that, hey, when you guys are finished with this process, you're going to have more clarity, right? And so when couples can get on the same page and have the agreements and have the same goals and then have the behaviors that align with the goals, absolutely, right? But it takes a minute to change. But if you have one partner that's just resistant or continues to not want to evolve or grow within that relationship, or again, boundary violations, I think that's when you can have a more clarity around like, is this relationship for me? Like, I just feel like it's one-sided.
I mean, I think it's important to say, we're talking outside of the context of an abusive relationship, right? An abusive relationship is a whole other thing. And so we're talking here just in the context of how difficult it is to make a relationship work. And, clearly all marriages don't work, and there are times where people do get divorced. I mean, for me, what's important is exactly what Tarah was saying, is like, are both people trying, but that there's also like an ebb and flow to this as well. And there are times where, maybe one person is leading more than the other. And that is the beauty of a long-term relationship, if you do choose to really stick in it and make it work, is that there's going to be times, hopefully, that I'm there for you, and maybe you need my support, and maybe you're not seeing things as clearly in your own life, in our relationship, and certainly there's been many times that you've been there for me in that way. So it helps if both people are very committed to making it work. But there are times where somebody's just done.
I'm hearing patience, at times delayed gratification. Relationships are really hard. There's a reason why, there's almost a 50% divorce rate. But we're here to say, like, if you can be patient with that process and both people are willing to look at themselves for the sake of the coupleship, then that's beautiful.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, I have one.
Okay.
Can I do one? This is an interesting one, maybe hard to answer very quickly. What are effective ways to communicate when we both have different arguing styles?
Ooh. Oh, you're looking at me?
I'm looking. We definitely have different arguing styles, wouldn't you say?
I would say that we're defining what our arguing styles are. I can say for me, I just need to be like validated and heard, not problem solved. But I feel like if we can define them, and then we know that we're going into a heated discussion, that we can set boundaries. Like, hey, if it starts to like get out of our window of tolerance, like, what do we do? Yeah. Our code word or whatever. But I'm going to let you answer that one.
Well, I mean, I think we are a very typical male-female arguing style that is very important for you to have your feelings acknowledged, that the facts oftentimes like don't necessarily, they're secondary to like me really listening to what's happening for you emotionally. And I definitely want to be more of a problem solver, and I want to like understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about like, well, okay, what actually happened, or what could I do different, or whatever. And so I think it's just acknowledging the ways in which you react instinctively, the way your mind works in stressful situations, and just knowing it. Like I know I'm never going to get to the problem, the content, unless I can really sit back and acknowledge the feelings that are going through you. And I have to make that a priority.
Right.
And in order for us to stay connected.
But we also remind each other, like, I have to be able to say, hey, here's what I'm needing right now. And you have to be able to say, hey, here's what I'm needing right now. Those needs have to be listened to, and they have to be okay, because we do have different needs in certain situations, and you have to be able to express them. I can't just constantly think, oh, EJ's always going to prioritize my feelings first. I have to be like, EJ, remember, I need a little
Yeah.
validation before we can move into the problem solving. Or, hey, honey, today I just need like heart with ears. Just say what you need. Clear is kind. That's Brene Brown's motto.
Yeah.
And then we don't lose ourselves in the whole, oh my God, he should have said this, or they should have done this, or I've told them this before. Like that just gets it all murky.
Yeah. I mean, I love in this instance, and it applies in many different dynamics in your relationship. I love Dr. Stan Tatkin's sort of ethos of we need to become an expert in our partner.
Yeah.
If I understand the way that Tarah reacts in an argument when we become heated, if she understands the way I react, then there's a higher likelihood we're going to be adaptive in those moments and be there for each other instead of it becoming just an argument, and nothing good's going to come out of that.
And we still don't get it right all the time, but we keep getting better at it. Okay.
That's
Next question. This is a really good one. It was one I can relate to. Okay. In a blended family, how important is it to prioritize your spouse and make them number one over the children? Go ahead. I'm going to let you answer this one.
Well, I mean, it's obviously important that our relationship is at the top of the heap. Because if we're connected in a healthy way, then we're going to be able to love all the kids, support them in a positive way. So I think it's counterintuitive, because I think there's a part that especially people early on in this process around co-parenting, around blended families, where they hear like, I love my partner more than I love my kids. Like you're asking me, and that's, I think they get stuck in that. I think really what we're talking about is that we're the dyad, we're the two at the top. We are connected. We are loving towards one another. That is the most important.
Yeah.
And then everything else is going to be healthier below it.
I agree with that 100%. And again, it was something that we had to learn in our own relationship, that our relationship has to be the priority, because if it's not, right, things will start to feel divided, split up, and a blended family, right, it's already split up a little. And so if you're not really careful, kids who are great at splitting, it's their job. They're great at testing boundaries and pushing boundaries and crossing boundaries in every which way. If that becomes the normal, that's where the relationship starts to feel disconnected. And then you've got all these different triangles in the system. But if your partner's your priority, right? That's going to feel so much safer for the blended family and the system. And you guys have the agreements, and you might have different parenting styles, but you have agreements around how do we stay a priority and not let the kids like conquer and divide.
Yeah.
How do we set really healthy boundaries?
And that goes for blended families, like, traditional nuclear families, whatever. Like it's the same concept, right? It's just that blended families are a little more complicated because there's that
there's more layers,
biological, non-biological connection between one of the kids.
Well, and exes.
Yeah, and exes, and
that can be
dealing with a third in the parenting realm.
Thank you for saying that. So just know, right? Like it's the partners together. And you don't ever want the kids or like external circumstances coming in and being a third in your relationship. So yes, it is very important to prioritize your partner in a blended family.
All right, I have one. Okay. And this is actually a question directly to us, which I think is kind of cool.
Oh.
So the writer asked, how do the two of us balance our relationship and our personal hobbies/interests?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I love that we have different platforms that we're using because I didn't. Okay. So how do we balance our relationship and our personal hobbies? I mean, we kind of have a structure. Like my personal hobbies are basically exercise, and I really like watching murder documentaries. And so I try to I sometimes we'll go to the gym together, but I've got like my 5 days a week that I'm doing my thing, maybe with my girlfriends. And then I, usually on the weekends or in the morning, because I don't want the kids to be around the murder documentaries, kind of like create my own little space.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we support each other in them. I think exercise is important to both of us. It keeps both of us like mentally and physically feeling good. And so we almost every day check in with each other about like how we can help each other. I used to be like a 5 a.m. gym person, and I've kind of shifted out of that. And so now it's in the afternoon, which is kind of tricky. Yeah. So every single day we check in with each other about it.
Yeah.
And then we tell each other what our needs are. You know, Tarah will say like, hey, you know, I really need to hang out with my girlfriends, and we're planning a dinner or whatever. And we just try to be there for each other and support.
And
for us, that's never been a point of conflict for us, except if I, show up too late from pickleball, then that like.
No, it's healthy. I mean, we know that like having that sense of individuality and like keeping our own hobbies is something that keeps you feeling like autonomous in a relationship, which is healthy. So
yeah, absolutely.
Next question. This is actually, I mean, all of these questions are great, but is it selfish to bring up needing words of affirmation? Being a stay-at-home parent and homeschooling my kids, I felt lately like I just crave the affection and words of affirmation. Is that selfish? Oh, absolutely not. No, especially being a stay-at-home parent and homeschooling, like I can just imagine how intense that can feel, how much energy and love and wisdom you're trying to give to your family. And so that words of affirmation from your partner, like that would feel so, I guess, inspirational and like important, and that you are a significant person in this relationship. And if you're not asking for it or your partner's not doing it, you will start to build resentment, and your needs will, kind of go under the table, if you will. And that's not good, because your needs are really important.
I mean, this is something that actually I've been, because we're constantly like looking at the programs we create for people who live in our community and at our counseling center and our at-home program that we have, and on the podcast of what's important, what's really important in a relationship. And like this to me, I think is just like such one of the most important things is being responsive to what makes your partner feel loved. And it's back to that, like, and that's why people have loved that like 5 love language book over the years, because it's so directly about that, about how can I clarify to my partner what makes me feel loved?
Right.
And so, but yet it's like such a hard thing, it seems, especially once you've gotten kind of far into relationship. And so that you need those words of affirmation. Amazing. I mean, important. You should have them. The tough part is getting how do we communicate that to our partner? And then how does our partner get good at consistently doing those things?
So the thing that is coming up for me is when we had our podcast with Dr. Amy Metcalf, right? And we were sharing this thing, like, when I like do my makeup and my hair, like I always want you to be like, honey, you look so good. And that morning you didn't. And so I felt like I kind of went into like a victim place, like, oh, woe is me. Like he hasn't said anything about my cute hairdo today, whatever it might be. And Dr. Metcalf said something like it just hit me like a ton of bricks in a really good way. She's like, you should just be like, hey, honey, I need you to notice me. Like that would feel really good in a way that's empowering instead of disempowering. Because if I'm sitting there sulking and I came to you and I said, hey, I got to let you know, like my feelings were really hurt. Instead of that, to come in an empowered way, like, hey, I need you to really notice how hot I look today or whatever it might be. And so because that's going to feel less tense. That's going to feel more empowering for both parties, right? Because otherwise it ends up like if I'm in that place of disempowerment, like victim-y, then you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't get it right. She's mad at me, right? And I can't speak for you, but I think I'm trying in our relationship to be more of like, hey, right, in a playful way.
Well, I think this would be like an amazing podcast, amazing like workshop. Really, like this would be an amazing like day-long workshop of like, for partners of like, how do we meet each other's needs, or how do we create strategies to be consistently loving each other in the way we want to be loved? Because that is like, it's certainly been a struggle for us over the years. We see it with couple after couple. I think it's just like it's like a normal thing is we become limited in our resources as people giving the love. And then we get really resentful when we don't get. I know there's lots of ways where I'm like, okay, well, didn't get that. Same as you. I get in the same victim-y place.
But we can't let loving our partner become a responsibility.
No, it has to be a joint effort. It has to be something that we're like, it's important. Like, I want to love you the way in which you want to be loved.
Yeah.
I want you to love me in the way in which I want to be loved. And I want those things to like match up consistently so we feel loved all the time.
It cannot be tit for tat. Like, oh, if EJ pays me compliments, then I'll pay him compliments. Like, it just can't be.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, I'm just thinking of a couple in my head right now where it's just like, everything is tit for tat, and that's just like it's an impossible way to solve problems. It's an impossible way to love each other consistently because it's all conditional, right? Then everything in your relationship becomes conditional.
Yeah. So practice that playful, like, for this listener who reached out, like, honey, words of affirmation. I had a crazy day that would feel really good. And what kind of words of affirmation? Like, you are a freaking rock star homeschool teacher. Like, what feels good? Like, let your partner know.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. So I got a funny one. It's another one.
Is this going to be our final question?
Directly to us. Yeah, it could be our final. And it's about us. So these are kind of fun.
Sorry.
Crunch that ice, girl.
I'm sorry. Okay.
All right, this is a question from a listener directly to us. What's a silly habit that your partner has that you secretly find endearing?
Oh my, I know one totally right now about you. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we have like curtains in our bedroom, and you put like there's like a little curtain holder thing to like squish it up in the morning to let the daylight come in. It's like a little, what are they called? Like a curtain hook thing. Anyway, I love that you separate the curtains, but you don't put the hooks around them. They're separated without it getting bunched into the hook.
What is endearing about that?
I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, that's so cute that he did the first step and not the second. Like, I just think it's the cutest thing ever. And then I'll go take that second step and go put the little wicker curtain thing around it. But I just think it's really cute. I don't know. I laugh inside when I see it.
Yeah.
And instead of like, it's like when people put like darks in the lights, or the lights in the darks for laundry, like that I could get like frustrated or whatever. But no, this I just find very endearing.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Okay. Mine is like a like mannerism that you have. And it's funny, like I've learned to appreciate it more because now Mia, our daughter, has the exact same mannerism, and it's really cute, but it happens in moments where like you are like thinking more deeply about something or something. Like, I'm not even sure, like, but what happens is you squint your eyes a little bit. You just go, you'll be sitting there and somebody will say something or I'll just can tell like you just do this little like tightening around your little eyeballs, and it's like it's very cute, but it's also, it means you're thinking more deeply about something. And I used to notice it, and then but then when I saw Mia doing it as well, I was like, wow, that is like so interesting. Like like you have these like little mannerisms that I think are adorable.
I love that question, because I think for listeners, I think you should ask your partner this question today. Like, what is it that you find, a habit of mine, something that I do that you find endearing? I feel like that's a great question of the day for your partner.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was fun. It was just fun to kind of like answer a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
We appreciate anytime people reach out and, tell us about your relationship, offer us up questions, give us topics. It really helps us, just really create content for all of you that is the content that you want to hear from us.
Yes. And again, we are building this community of, right, just healthy relationships and the skills that it takes, because it does take skills. So please reach out. Thanks for listening. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye-bye.